Good morning, students. In the last class, we discussed the concept of Ampere's circuital law, and we applied Ampere's circuital law in various situations to find the magnetic field due to a current carrying wire and current carrying solenoid, current carrying hollow cylinder, solid cylinder, etc. etc. In this connection, let us discuss the same Ampere's circuital law in case of a toroid. We know about solenoid. Solenoid means a wire which is wound in the form of a spiral like this. The arrangement of a wire in this form is called solenoid. In solenoid, magnetic field lines are like this. Entire magnetic field is concentrated within the solenoid as shown in figure. Depending on the direction of motion of current through the solenoid, we may have north pole and south pole, and lines of force are like this, and we calculated the magnetic field at the inner point of the solenoid. If the same solenoid which is wound in the form of a circular loop like this, such an arrangement of solenoid is called toroid. In this toroid, the magnetic lines of force like concentric circles. Magnetic lines of force are like concentric circles like this. As the current is passing through the wire of the toroid, it generates some magnetic field like concentric circles as shown in figure. We would like to find the strength of magnetic field because of the passage of current through this toroid in three particular regions. This is region number 1 within this circular loop, region number 2 inside the core of the toroid, region number 3 outside the toroid. In the three regions, I would like to find the strength of the magnetic field. In order to find the strength of the magnetic field, I would like to apply Ampere's circuital law. In order to apply Ampere's circuital law, we need to take an Amperian loop. Let R is the radius of this toroid. Otherwise, at a distance R from the center of the toroid, let me imagine an Amperian loop like this. This dotted line is indicating Amperian loop. The radius of the Amperian loop is R. So, at this particular point, depending on the right hand thumb rule, as the current is going like this, magnetic field may have direction tangential to the Amperian loop like this. Let me take a small element over the Amperian loop. Let the length of the element is dl. As per Ampere's circuital law, integral b bar dot dl bar over the Amperian loop, closed integral b bar dot dl bar is mu naught times I enclosed. I enclosed within the Amperian loop. If you cut this toroid like this, the cross section appears like this. Every wire is having circular cross section. So you may have the cross section like this. As the current is going like this, On the outer cross sections, current is going into the paper, going into the paper. Then obviously in the inner cross sections, current is coming out of the paper. On the inner cross sections, current is coming out of the paper. Current is coming out of the paper. Here is the Amperian loop I considered. Here is the Amperian loop I considered. So through the outer cross sections, current is going into the paper. The same current is coming out of the paper at the inner cross sections. Suppose I is the current going into the paper here. The same current in turn it is coming outside like this. Here R is the radius of Amperian loop. R is the radius of Amperian loop. So here I took some B bar along the tangential direction to the loop and dl bar on the Amperian loop. This is the Amperian loop. This is the Amperian loop. Now, in order to apply this integral here, this is B dl cos theta. Theta is the angle between B bar and dl bar, that is 0, cos 0 is 1. So it becomes closed integral B dl cos 0 degrees, that is nothing but closed integral B dl cos 0 is 1. The strength of magnetic field at a fixed distance, because this is a closed Amperian loop having constant radius, so everywhere you will find the same strength of magnetic field, B closed integral dl. Closed integral dl means you should take similar elements over this loop and you should add all the small elements dl. You will get the circumference of the Amperian loop, that is B into 2 pi r. This is the left hand portion of the given Ampere's circular law. On right hand side, which is equal to mu naught times I enclosed. Mu naught times I enclosed. Here we defined n in case of solenoid. N is defined as number of turns per unit length. N is the number of turns per unit length. So total number of turns, if you want, means total length. What is the total length? Nothing but circumference. Total length is nothing but circumference, 2 pi r. So I enclosed means there are n turns per unit length. Total length of the solenoid I considered is nothing but circumference. Solenoid in the sense toroid here, 2 pi r into L. Sorry, into I. Every wire is carrying current I. Every wire is carrying current I. So 2 pi r gets cancelled. B is equal to mu naught Ni. This is the magnetic field I calculated in the region 2. This is the magnetic field I calculated in the region 2. Region 2. Similarly, if I take the Amperian loop inside this, or if I take an Amperian loop outside this, if I apply integral B bar dot dl bar here, no current is enclosed within the loop. No current is enclosed within the loop. Hence you will find magnetic field is 0 in region 1. B is equal to 0 in region 1. Similarly, if I take the Amperian loop in the region 3, here whatever current is going into the paper, the same amount of current is coming out of the paper. Hence net current moving inside this Amperian loop is 0. Hence again magnetic field is 0 in region 3. Clearly, whenever we wounded the solenoid in the form of a circle like this, Such an arrangement is called toroid. Toroid provides a uniform magnetic field in circular shape. Solenoid provides almost uniform magnetic field in the horizontal direction, in the straight line path. It provides concentric circle-like magnetic lines of force. That means a uniform circular magnetic field is provided, and the entire magnetic field is confined within the core of the toroid. The strength of the magnetic field at any point within the toroid is mu naught Ni. It is independent of the radius. Whether you are considering inner radius or whether you are considering outer radius, it doesn't matter. It is independent of radius. It depends on the permeability of the medium which is made within the core. Generally the core is filled with air. So you have to consider the permeability of air. N is the number of turns per unit length. I is the strength of current passing through the wire. Then magnetic field at an inside point is mu naught Ni, independent of radius of the toroid. Whereas the magnetic field is 0 in region 1, whereas magnetic field is 0 in region 3. So in this way, we apply the concept of Ampere's circuital law to understand the strength of magnetic field due to a current carrying a loop, or current carrying solenoid, or current carrying toroid, whatever it is. In case of toroid, entire magnetic field is confined to the inner core of the toroid, and the magnetic field is in the form of circular shape. Magnetic field is in the form of circular shape, and the strength of the magnetic field is independent of radius of the toroid. And the strength of the magnetic field is independent of radius of toroid. The same formula we can also write like this. Here N is the number of turns per unit length. Suppose capital N is the total number of turns. What is the total length of the toroid? Let it be L. So total number of turns by, what is the total length? 2 pi r. So B can be written as mu naught, in the place of N I should write capital N by 2 pi r into I. If you represent the total number of turns, then it depends on radius. If you represent the number of turns per unit length, then it doesn't depend on radius. So the same formula in region 2. Here you have to understand capital N is the total number of turns available. Capital N is total number of turns. R is the radius of the toroid. So in this way, it is inversely proportional to the radius if you are provided with total number of turns. Independent of radius if you are provided with number of turns per unit length. So we can use Ampere's circuital law in this way to find the strength of magnetic field at different regions. Now let us move to the next concept. The next concept of our discussion is Lorentz force. Lorentz force. It's a very, very important concept. Here, one or two fundamental points we should understand. Suppose if there is an electric field of strength E bar, if you keep a charge either plus Q or minus Q here, this charge experiences a force due to electric field given by F is equal to EQ. The charge experiences a force because of the electric field. F is equal to EQ. Because it is electric field is distributed from positive to negative, So the positive will repel positive or negative will attract positive. It experiences a force in the direction of the field. So this charge will try to move in the direction of the field like this. So this is the force experienced by the charge due to electric field. Once the charge starts its motion, so charge is under motion means it creates some current. Whenever current is passing, it generates some magnetic field. So every moving charge, suppose Q is the charge available here, if it is moving with some non-zero velocity, it provides some magnetic field around its path. If you keep this charge inside the magnetic field, external magnetic field, B bar, definitely it experiences some force. Charge at rest experiences force in electric field. Even charge under motion experiences force in electric field. But charge at rest doesn't experience any force when it is kept in external magnetic field. If velocity of the charge is 0, V is 0, that means Q is at rest. Force experienced by this charge because of the magnetic field is 0. If V is not equal to 0, that is Q is in motion. Whenever charge is in motion, force experienced by this charge due to the external magnetic field is non-zero. If you keep a charged particle in electric field as well as magnetic field simultaneously, if both the fields are available, it experiences force due to electric field, whether it is at rest, whether it is under motion. It experiences force only when it is under motion. So force due to electric field will act on the charged particle when either it is at rest or in motion. When particle or the charge which is at rest or in motion, it experiences force due to electric field. Only when charge is in motion, it experiences magnetic field. If you keep electric field and magnetic field simultaneously in a particular region, and if you make a charged particle to move in that particular simultaneously applied electric and magnetic field region, it experiences a force given by, net force experienced is given by force due to electric field as well as force due to magnetic field. The combination of force experienced due to electric field and force experienced due to magnetic field is called Lorentz force. Lorentz force is the sum of forces, which sum, vector sum. Directions also play an important role. Force experienced due to electric field, force experienced due to magnetic field together provides a net force called Lorentz force. Then how to calculate the force experienced by a charged particle due to magnetic field? Suppose here is a charge Q which is moving with a velocity, non-zero velocity V bar like this, in a magnetic field of strength B bar. Here force is a vector quantity. Whenever you require a vector, you should take vector product. Vector product means B bar cross B bar. Scalar product or vector product must be done between two vectors into Q. Q into V bar cross B bar will provide the force due to magnetic field. Q into V bar cross B bar will provide the force due to magnetic field. Here the direction of force is according to the vector product rule. If V bar and B bar are lying in one plane, then F bar is perpendicular to the plane containing V and B. So in this way, we will have the direction of force due to magnetic field. If you combine these two equations, equation number 1 is indicating force due to electric field, equation number 2 is indicating force due to magnetic field. The combination of these two, that is EQ plus Q into V bar cross B bar, this force is called Lorentz force. Here Q is the charge on the particle, which is a scalar quantity you can keep outside, E bar plus V bar cross B bar. This force is called Lorentz force. This force is called, net force is called Lorentz force. Very, very important definition, which is useful for learning so many concepts. Once again you say, what is Lorentz force? Whenever a charged particle is kept simultaneously in electric field as well as magnetic field, it experiences force due to electric field as well as magnetic field. The net force experienced by the charged particle is called Lorentz force. Force experienced by particle due to electric field is given by EQ. Force experienced by the particle, charged particle, due to magnetic field is given by Q into V bar cross B bar. This force exists only when the particle is under motion. This force exists either the particle is at rest or under motion. Whatever is the case, the net force experienced is given by Q into E bar plus V bar cross B bar. This force is called Lorentz force. Based on this, let us do one example. You know about B. What are the units of B? Weber per meter square, or Tesla in MKS system. In CGS system, this is measured in Gauss. Magnetic flux is measured in Gauss. 1 Gauss is equal to 10 power minus 4 Tesla. This is in CGS system. This is in MKS or SI system. Okay, the relationship between these two is 1 Gauss is equal to 10 power minus 4 Tesla. Whenever you require, this conversion can be used. Magnetic induction field is having units Weber per meter square, because B can have some another definition, flux passing through unit area, magnetic flux passing through unit area. This definition we will discuss in the coming chapter. Already you studied in 10th standard itself. Flux is measured in Webers, area is measured in meter square. Weber per meter square is called Tesla, SI unit or MKS unit. CGS unit is Gauss. They are related as 1 Gauss is equal to 10 power minus 4 Tesla. Now let us solve one problem related to this. The question says like this. Here is the question. There is a 2 MeV proton which is moving perpendicular to magnetic field of 2.5 Tesla. A 2 MeV proton is moving perpendicular to a magnetic field of strength 2.5 Tesla. A 2 MeV proton is moving perpendicular to uniform magnetic field of strength 2.5 Tesla. What is the magnetic force experienced by it? Uniform magnetic field. What is the magnetic force experienced by it? This is the question. All of us know about mass of proton. Mass of proton is 1.6 into 10 power minus 27 kgs. 1.6 into 10 power minus 27 kgs. So you are given 2 MeV proton. That means you are provided with energy of the proton. Energy of the proton means proton is under motion, means which energy it possesses? Kinetic energy it possesses. So kinetic energy is equal to 2 MeV. 1 electron volt is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. 1 electron volt is, joules. 1.6 into, electron volt is a unit of energy. Electron volt is a unit of energy. Unit of energy. Energy is measured in joules. So they are related like this. M stands for mega. That is 2 into 10 power 6 electron volts. So kinetic energy means half into mass of proton into velocity of proton square is equal to, they gave it as 2 into 10 power 6 into electron volt. Electron volt means 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. So this is the data given to us, and the strength of the magnetic field they gave it as 2.5 Tesla. You are asked to calculate force experienced by the charged proton or moving proton because of the magnetic field, which is given by Q into V bar cross V bar. Q into V bar cross V bar. You know the charge on the proton, nothing but it is a positive charge, 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs, nothing but charge on electron. On electron we have negative charge, on proton we have positive charge. So here this is moving perpendicular to the uniform magnetic field. That means velocity vector is perpendicular to B bar. If you expand this, force due to magnetic field is given by BVQ sin theta. Theta is 90. Sin 90 is 1. No need to worry about this. So you are left with only BVQ. BVQ. So force due to magnetic field is given by B, strength of magnetic field 2.5 Tesla. Velocity of the proton I should take here. If you simplify this, you will get velocity of proton. So how to get velocity of proton here? So if you take this, velocity of proton square is equal to 2 2s are 4. 4 into 1.6 into 10 power minus 13 by mass of proton. If you remove the square here, you will get a root here. So square root of 4 into 1.6 into 10 power minus 13 by mass of proton is 1.6 into 10 power minus 27 kgs into, this is the velocity, charge of proton is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19. This is the force experienced by it. Force is measured in newtons. You need to simplify this. So on simplification, you will get this 1.6 and this 1.6 will get cancelled. So you are having 2.5 into 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 over there into root of 4 into 10 power, it becomes 14, 10 power 14. So you will have 2.5 into 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 into 2 into 10 power 7. 2.5s are 5, 5 16s are 80. So it becomes 8 into 10 power minus 12 newtons. So in order to solve this problem, we should have some idea about the proton. What is the mass of proton? What is the charge on the proton? And a moving charge always possesses kinetic energy. In kinetic energy, electron volt is 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. What is the definition of electron volt? Electron volt is nothing but energy possessed by a charged particle like proton when it is accelerated through 1 volt potential difference. When a charged proton is Proton means already charged. Proton is accelerated through 1 volt potential difference electric field. The energy possessed by it is called electron volt. So by taking mega as 10 power 6, by taking electron volt as 1.6 into 10 power minus 19, from this we can calculate velocity of the proton. By substituting velocity of proton, mass of proton and charge on proton, you will get force experienced by the charged particle because of the magnetic field. Force experienced by the charged proton because of the magnetic field. Now, let us apply the concept of Lorentz force to solve some more problems. Now, let us discuss one more application based on the force experienced by a charged particle in magnetic field. The question is like this: a charged particle is projected into a magnetic field, B bar, which is given by 3I cap plus 4j cap, 3I cap plus 4j cap into 10 power minus 2 Tesla. 10 power minus 2 Tesla. The acceleration of the particle is found to be A bar is equal to xi cap plus 2j cap, xi cap plus 2j cap. Find x. This is the question. The solution is very simple. Force experienced by the particle when it is projected into a magnetic field is given by F is equal to Q into V bar cross B bar. This is the force experienced by a particle when it is projected into a magnetic field. Force can be written as mass into acceleration. So ma bar is equal to Q into V bar cross B bar. Now, if we read the question clearly, force and acceleration both are in same direction. Force and acceleration both are in same direction. The direction of force is perpendicular to the plane containing V bar and B bar. Therefore, acceleration will be perpendicular to the plane containing V bar and B bar. So, A bar is perpendicular to B bar. A bar is perpendicular to B bar. Whenever two vectors are perpendicular to each other, what will happen? Their dot product, if you consider, what is the formula of dot product? A bar dot B bar is equal to mod A bar mod B bar cos theta. If theta is 90, cos 90 is 0. Theta is equal to 90 degrees implies A bar dot B bar is equal to 0. Dot product is ceasing means those two vectors are perpendicular to each other. As we know, the direction of A bar is perpendicular to the plane containing V and B. You can say that A bar is perpendicular to B bar. We conclude that A bar dot B bar must be 0. A bar they gave xi cap plus 2j cap dot B bar they gave it as 3i cap plus 4j cap into 10 power minus 2. It must be 0. So you know the expansion of dot product. So 3x plus 2 into 4 into 10 power minus 2 must be 0. That is 3x plus 8 is equal to 0. X is equal to minus 8 by 3. X is equal to minus 8 by 3. What are the units of x? Actually, a bar is acceleration. Units of acceleration are meter per second square. So in x direction, the value of acceleration is x. In y direction, the value of acceleration is 2. So the value of x is minus 8 by 3. What we find here, it is the acceleration. Acceleration means meter per second square are the units. Very, very simple. Here what you have to understand is the direction of force is perpendicular to the plane containing V and B. Similarly, the direction of acceleration is perpendicular to the plane containing V and B. Therefore, A bar is perpendicular to B bar. Whenever two vectors are perpendicular to each other, their dot product ceases. Their dot product ceases. This point you should understand from this discussion. Now let us move to the next concept. Now let us move to the next concept. The next concept, it is also important for our board examination. The name of the concept is force acting on a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. Force acting on a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. Very, very important for our board exam. Very important question. Okay. Here is a conductor. This conductor is kept in a magnetic field. As the lines of force are parallel to each other, this magnetic field is uniform magnetic field. In this magnetic field, the conductor is carrying a current. The conductor is carrying a current in this direction. The current passing through the conductor is I. Current means conventional current. In current electricity, we have seen that conventional current always moves from battery positive to battery negative. At the same time, the electron current, that means this terminal of the conductor is connected to battery positive, this terminal of the conductor is connected to battery negative. So conventional current will go from positive to negative. Electron current will move in a direction opposite to the conventional current. So this is the direction of electron current, this is the direction of conventional current, this is the direction of magnetic field. Now, we need to calculate force experienced by a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. Will it experience a force? Exactly. Exactly, it will experience a force. As now, in last class we have seen, whenever a charged particle is moving in a magnetic field, it experiences some force. Here electrons are charged particles. As they are moving in the magnetic field, they will experience some force. Even conventional current is also defined as the motion of charged particles. So as motion of charged particles is like this, they will definitely experience some force. How to know the direction of this force? And what is the magnitude of this force? This is our idea. For my convenience, let me take the area of cross section of the conductor as A, length of the conductor as L. Area of cross section of the conductor as A and length of the conductor as L. The force direction and what is the magnitude of force, these are the things what we have to calculate. Here if you observe clearly, electrons will move with a speed called drift speed. Vd is nothing but drift speed. Already we studied in current electricity. Drift speed of electrons. Vd is the drift speed of electrons. As you know, force due to magnetic field Fb is given by Q into V bar cross B bar. Q into V bar cross B bar. Here force experienced by the electron, that means charge of electron is E. Electron is moving with a speed Vd cross strength of magnetic field is B bar. That is EVd B sin theta. Theta is the angle between velocity vector and magnetic field vector. Theta is the angle between velocity vector and magnetic field vector. Now, this is the force experienced by the particular electron which is moving in the conductor with a constant speed called drift speed. Here, let us define small n, number of charge carriers per unit volume. Small n is the number of charge carriers per unit volume. If you want to calculate the current here, how to calculate current? First of all, I should calculate capital N, total number of charge carriers. Total number of charge carriers. Here small n is the number of charge carriers available per unit volume. Volume means area of cross section into length. So total number of charge carriers are n. They are available in area of cross section into length, as it is a cylindrical wire. Its volume is given by AL, which implies total number of charge carriers is NAL. Each charge carrier is nothing but each electron is possessing a charge small e. So total charge that is to be carried is equal to total number of charge carriers into charge of each carrier. Therefore, NALE is the total amount of charge that is carried here. Whenever you want current, charge by time. So current passing through the conductor is given by NALE by T. Here N number of charge carriers per unit volume constant, A area of cross section constant, E charge of each carrier constant. So you are having L by T. L is the length of the conductor, T is the time taken by the charge carrier to move through the conductor of length L. Therefore, distance by time is velocity. N A E V. Since V is equal to L by T. Since V is equal to L by T, it is the strength of current here. Strength of current here. Now, from the above expression, each charge carrier experiences a force Fb. Here, this is the force experienced by a single charge carrier. Total force, net force experienced means total number of charge carriers into force experienced by each charge carrier. So N into E Vd B sin theta. N into like this. N means small n AL E VD B sin theta. Now, if I rearrange the terms, NA E VD at one place, remaining LB sin theta here, if you write like this, NAEVD represents the strength of current, ILB sin theta. That is the net force experienced by the conductor. Here, I is a scalar quantity, but force is a vector quantity. In order to represent it as a vector, here we should have the cross product of two vectors. Okay, L bar cross B bar, L bar cross B bar. This is the net force experienced by the conductor. Net force experienced by the conductor, I into L bar cross B bar. That means the direction of force is perpendicular to the plane containing L and B. Perpendicular to the plane containing L and B. Actually, L is the length of the conductor. L bar means in the direction of current, the direction of L bar we should take. So, L bar and B bar are lying in this plane. Definitely, the force vector is perpendicular to the plane containing both, like this. The direction of this force is given by Fleming left hand rule. The direction of this force is given by Fleming left hand rule. What is Fleming left hand rule? Whenever we stretch the thumb finger, index finger and middle finger of our left hand mutually perpendicular to each other like this, we should remember the middle finger should represent current, the index finger should represent field, the thumb should represent force. So, here current is like this, field is like this, force is upwards. The direction of force experienced by a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field is given by Fleming's left hand rule. Fleming's left hand rule. What is Fleming left hand rule? Whenever we stretch our three fingers of our left hand such that they are mutually perpendicular to each other, the middle finger represents the current. The current is going in this way. Current means conventional current. The index finger should represent field, current, field, force, alphabetical order only. First of all, current will come, then field will come, then force will come. In this order, all the three fingers are representing the three quantities, current, field and force. This rule is called Fleming's left hand rule. Once again you say, what is the statement of Fleming's left hand rule? Whenever we stretch the three fingers of our left hand mutually perpendicular to each other, the middle finger represents current direction, the index finger represents the magnetic field direction, the thumb represents the direction of force. So, the force experienced by a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field is given by F is equal to I into L bar cross B bar. F bar is equal to I into L bar cross B bar. Very, very important question for our board examination, and the formula is useful for solving so many problems. Now, let us extend our discussion to one more idea. force acting between two parallel current carrying conductors. Force acting between two parallel current carrying conductors. Suppose there are two conductors, they are parallel to each other. The first conductor is carrying a current I1, the second conductor is carrying a current I2. Is there any force acting between them? If so, what is the magnitude of that force? What is the nature of that force? Nature in the sense, is it attractive force? Is it repulsive force? All these ideas we need to discuss. Here, the two conductors are parallel to each other. Two conductors are parallel to each other. The first one is carrying a current I1, second one is carrying a current I2. If you think, if current is going like this, some magnetic field get generated. According to right hand thumb rule, the magnetic field is out of the paper or into the paper here. Here it is out of the paper, here it is into the paper. Similarly, when current is going like this, here magnetic field is out of the paper, here magnetic field is into the paper. Some magnetic field get developed here. Here magnetic field is into the paper, here magnetic field is out of the paper. These two magnetic fields interact with each other. They may lead to the attraction or repulsion between the two conductors. Let us understand what is the nature of magnetic field and in which way it will help the conductors to attract or repel each other. Now, first of all, if you observe, the current is going like this. Because of this current, some magnetic field got developed here. In which direction? Into the paper. Magnetic field developed here, B1 is into the paper. This is the magnetic field developed by the passes of current in the first conductor. If you observe clearly, the second conductor already carrying a current I2, it is kept in the magnetic field produced by the first conductor. As you know, whenever we keep a current carrying conductor in magnetic field, definitely it experiences a force. The direction of force is given by Fleming's left hand rule. According to Fleming's left hand rule, current is going like this, magnetic field is into the paper, so definitely the force direction is like this. Here current is going like this in the direction of middle finger, magnetic field is in the direction of index finger, and it experiences a force in this direction. This is the force experienced by the second conductor because of the first conductor. Similar argument I am doing here, as the current is going like this, according to right hand thumb rule, magnetic field is out of the paper here. This is the magnetic field generated here because of the current passing in the second conductor. So B2 is the magnetic field because of the second conductor. The first conductor carrying current I1 is kept in this magnetic field. So it experiences some force. How to find that force? Again you have to go for Fleming's left hand rule. As for Fleming's left hand rule, if current is going like this, if magnetic field is out of the paper, current direction is like this, magnetic field is out of the paper, force is like this. So this is the force experienced by first conductor because of the second conductor. So first conductor is trying to move towards second conductor is trying to move towards first conductor. This is the first conductor, this is the second conductor. They attract each other. If the currents in the two conductors are passing parallel to each other, whether they may have identical magnitude or not, but those currents makes the conductors to attract each other. What is the force of attraction between them? What is the force of attraction between them? We need to calculate. Okay, first of all you tell me, what is the magnetic field developed here into the paper? B1. B1 is the magnetic field developed due to the presence of current in the first conductor. magnetic field is given by, it's a infinite long conductor, and the separation between them is d. At distance d, what is the strength of magnetic field because of a long conductor? Mu naught I by 4 pi d. Is it correct? 4 pi d or 2 pi d? Mu naught I by 2 pi d. This is the formula for magnetic field. Already we know the exact formula, mu naught I by 4 pi d into sin alpha plus sin beta. Here alpha and beta both are tending to 90. So sin 91, these two will go for 2 times. This is the strength of magnetic field which is into the paper. Now in this magnetic field, I2 is the strength of current passing, so it gives a force F21. The formula for it is I into L bar cross B bar. I means the strength of current passing here is I2. B means the magnetic field available here is B1. So I2 L B1 sin theta. Theta is the angle between length and magnetic field. Magnetic field is into the paper. Length of the conductor is on paper. They are perpendicular to each other. Here angle is 90. Sin 90 is 1. So F21 becomes I2 LB1. Similarly, what is the direction of this F21? Towards left. Similarly, let me have the value of B2. Magnetic field developed because of the second conductor at the vicinity of first conductor. Mu naught, actually this is a magnetic field developed because of the first conductor. So I1 I should write. Here mu naught I2 2 pi d out of the paper. As it is a vector, you should keep vector out of the paper. In this magnetic field, I1 is the strength of current passing, so it experiences some force. Force experienced by the first conductor because of the second conductor is nothing but I1 L bar cross B2 bar. So as the length and magnetic field are perpendicular to each other, you can write I1 L B2. I1 L B2. Now, let me substitute the values of B1 and B2 here. F21 is given by, let me write here, F21 is given by I2L. B1 is mu naught I1 by 2 pi d. Mu naught I1 by 2 pi d. So F21 is equal to mu naught I1 I2 by 2 pi d into L. Similarly, F12 is given by I1 L B2. In the place of B2, I can write mu naught I2 by 2 pi d. So it is mu naught I1 I2 by 2 pi d into L. Clearly, F21 is equal to F12. Magnitude wise both are equal. Or you can say 1 2 or F2 1 can be replaced with F. F is equal to mu naught by 2 pi d into, or mu naught I1 I2 by 2 pi d into L. So force per unit length is given by mu naught by 2 pi into I1 I2 by d. Force per unit length is given by mu naught by 2 pi into I1 I2 by d. So this formula is very, very important for solving problems. Similarly, if both conductors are carrying current in the same direction, they attract each other. Directions of current are parallel to each other. They attract each other. Attract each other. If suppose the directions are anti-parallel to each other, like this, I1 is like this, I2 is like this, what will happen? Because of this I1, some magnetic field is developed into the paper like this. Now if I apply Fleming left hand rule, current is like this, magnetic field is into the paper, it experiences a force experienced by the second conductor because of the first conductor is like this. If current is going like this, magnetic field is into the paper here. So as per Fleming left hand rule, current is going like this, magnetic field is into the paper, so it experiences a force like this, F12 bar. If both are anti-parallel to each other, they repel each other. Currents are anti-parallel means conductors repel each other. Currents are anti-parallel implies they repel each other. So two conductors will attract each other if currents are moving parallel to one another. Those two conductors will repel each other if currents are moving anti-parallel to each other. Either force of attraction or force of repulsion per unit length is given by this formula, mu naught I1 I2 by 2 pi d. As it is force per unit length, the units are Newton per meter or are dyne per centimeter in CGS system. Dyne per centimeter in CGS system. This concept is also very, very important for doing problems related to electromagnetism. Now we have to understand these formulae, how they are useful for us to do the problems. Let me explain you some problems related to these two ideas such that conceptual clarity will be there with us. In next class we will do it. Thank you.